Hi everyone, I'm Larissa Russell of Creative You, and I'm your host of the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Here's where we talk about the connection between creativity and healing by interviewing amazing creatives, spectacular healers, and inspiring people who have used creativity in their healing. What does it mean to be creative? What is creativity? You don't have to write a best-selling book or paint a masterpiece or even play in a rock band. Creativity is in everything that we do, in the ways we think, in the way we run a business. In our everyday lives, we are creative all the time. Let's talk about how we are creative and how creativity helps us heal mentally, physically, and emotionally, right now on the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Hi everyone, I'm Larissa Russell of Creative You. Welcome to the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Today I have with me Deanna Jinjoe. Deanna was one of our presenters for the Loving, Healing, Creating Summit that we ran February 2nd through 14th, and we absolutely loved having her. You can still get access to that summit at www.creativeyou.ca. A few years ago, Deanna was dealing with some serious chronic health issues. Her doctor's solution was to prescribe medications by the hundreds. She was driven by this pain to seek a solution other than her doctor's. One of the solutions turned out to be art. Deanna started playing and dabbling, taking a few online courses, and what she quickly realized is that no matter how much physical pain she woke up with, she didn't feel any pain once she sat down at her easel. Now, a few years later, pain is no longer a significant part of her life. It was the release from the pain while she played with her art that gave her hope that she could move beyond that pain. Deanna says that she has heard so many stories about how people have used art for healing and changed lives that moves her to get this message out to anyone who will care to listen. So welcome, Deanna.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Can you share some of your story and your path that's brought you here?
Yeah. I think what's brought me here beyond just the initial story, the initial finding my way to art out of, I guess, desperation, or part of the reason I guess I've continued along my artistic path is that it didn't take long for me to realize there's just so much transformative power to our creativity. And it doesn't really matter what, it doesn't have to be painting or drawing. I mean, you can be creative in so many ways, you know, in decorating your house, in meals you cook, in all sorts of ways. But without fail, I've pretty much noticed that anybody who embraces a creative practice of some kind ends up experiencing transformation. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is just so powerful. It's just such a powerful way for us to access something and to potentially access a new way of thinking and a new way of looking at things that we wouldn't otherwise necessarily have gotten to if we hadn't been exercising our creative muscles.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so what does healing with creativity mean to you? Like you touched on that a little bit, but can you expand?
I think in a way it's about personal empowerment, because what I found when I was dealing with the chronic pain that I was experiencing is you feel so powerless, especially when it's physical pain, but it doesn't have to be just physical pain. There's so many things in the world that affect us day to day. But for me, having the power to take back how I felt, even if it was for just a brief period of time, to be able to access that place where I didn't feel the pain, that was so powerful. And it gave me back my power. And it helped transform the way I looked at myself and my ability to deal with what was going on in my life at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And do you think there's a driving force that inspires you? Or is it that wanting to stay away from that pain?
No, I think once I started creating regularly, I think that the driving force was just the power to bring forth something that didn't exist before. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't have to be a work of fine art. I mean, I love to create beautiful art, but to me, it's so much more about the process. And it doesn't really matter if it's beautiful. It just matters that I've taken the time to get creative. And I just want to share that with so many other people, because I hear time and time again, people go, "Oh, I don't have a single creative bone in my body. Oh, I couldn't draw a stick figure if I wanted to." Well, we can all draw a stick figure. And sometimes you don't even have to do more than that, but just that ability to create something that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
No matter whether it gets judged as an acclaimed piece of art, or it's just a page in your journal, it's something you made that did not exist before. And something that you've thought of that perhaps in centuries of lifetime existence, nobody else has thought of.
That's a really good way of looking at it. It's true. I think I totally agree about the act of, creating. It's the process, not the finished product. But that thought that what you're creating is original because it's you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, that's very much so.
Yeah.
And has there been a past pain that's informed your life purpose?
It was probably the experience that brought me to making art in the first place. Just trying to deal with the chronic pain, not being able to get any answers, feeling wildly out of control of everything. Mm-hmm. And that led me to my creative practice, which then led me back sort of into alignment with myself and my inner power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what would you say is your favorite creative healing modality for yourself?
When I'm just looking to have fun or just to get out of my head, I love to play with my watercolors. Mm-hmm. I just find that more than any other medium, I can just pick them up and play freely and with abandon. And sometimes I love what I create and sometimes I don't, but there's just something about watercolors. I think it's because I can do it anywhere. I don't have to worry about making a mess, and they're very portable and flexible. And so I don't have to go set up in my studio to do that. I can just sit at the kitchen table and I just can just easily access it and easily play. So I think that's probably my favorite form of, I guess, escape art is to play with my watercolors. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what would you say is your greatest accomplishment to date?
You know what? It's not big and it's not lofty. It's just, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and she said, well, she was admiring that I share my artwork online on Instagram and stuff like that. She doesn't feel secure enough to share her artwork. And I just said, well, it's fine. Everybody has their own level of comfort with how they share and what they share. I said, but I share, and I, for the most part, share the good artwork, the bad artwork, sometimes even the ugly artwork. But I do it because I want to inspire other people to create and to not worry so much about what other people are thinking. So that's why I show it all, is just because I want to encourage people. And I told her that. And her response back to me was that after years of not being creative, I had inspired her to, again, pick up her art supplies. And it's just a little thing, but, even just being able to inspire one other person to access the power of their creativity is just, it's really all we can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And if you could change one aspect of our society through your work, what would it be?
Encouraging people to look at the positive. We are so overwhelmed through the media, through social media, we're just bombarded with fear and negativity every day. And I see so many times artists will post that, there was another tragedy of some kind, and I'm just gutted and I can't even begin to think about creating. And I understand we all process things differently, but I think in those times is when we most need to reach for our creative practice. And I also think that despite the fact that there's so much negativity out there, there's also so much beauty and so much magic out in the world, and so many wonderful things that happen that we just don't notice. So if I could encourage one change, it would be just for people to think about the positive, actually seek out the positive, seek out the magic, and don't pay as much attention to the negative and the stuff that drags us down. Because really we certainly can affect a lot of change. There's also a lot of things that we just simply have no control over, and allowing ourselves to get pulled down just doesn't benefit anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So what inspirational advice would you give someone who's struggling?
It's probably one of the hardest things to do, but it's probably the only thing you can do, and that's to just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep coming back to your creative practice, keep picking up your paintbrush or your pen or your pencil or something, and just keep, even if it's just for a few minutes, just for like 5 minutes a day, just keep at it, just keep doing it. Because as you develop the habit of doing it, it will lead to some of that transformation that we were talking about. And I think just to just keep trying.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. And it's really, I think about, I was coming out of a bad depression a few years ago, and that creativity is what sort of saved me. And I had to set a timer, like just, let's just do this for 2 minutes. And then I usually went much longer,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I didn't. I just forced myself for those 2 minutes and, and then got back into my creative practice that way. But it was a hard start. And so I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm. And it can be challenging. It can be hard. But it's
So
pretty
important.
much the only way through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you have an inspirational quote that sums up your life journey?
I think so. And it's probably, I mean, it's a very well-known quote by Marianne Williamson, and I don't know, maybe it's cliche, but there aren't any other words that sum things up quite like this. So it's long, so I'm just going to read it. But it's, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about your shrinking so that other people don't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us.
I love that.
I think, it just really sums everything up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that you'd like to tell our listeners that maybe we haven't discussed yet today?
I won't say we haven't discussed it, but just the encouragement to just keep trying. And especially if you're newer to any kind of a creative practice, start simple. Start with something small and simple. It doesn't have to be complex. You don't need thousands of dollars worth of art supplies. As a matter of fact, we can get so bogged down in, I need this newest and latest thing. And, a lot of Facebook groups feed into that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all love our art toys. Mm-hmm. But, it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't require any kind of talent, no skill. It's just a little bit of an investment in time. Mm-hmm. You can use art supplies that your kids might have just laying around to start, just do it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. We have dollar stores on every corner, and they have crayons and pencil crayons and paper, for under $5, you can enough to keep you going for a good long time if you don't have kids stuff around the house. So.
Yeah. I bought my first art supplies at Walmart.
Yep.
So, yep.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's excellent. I want to thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. Yes. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For our listeners, we will see you next week. And in the meantime, I wish for you an amazingly creative day. And we'll talk to you again. Thank you.